Hey there, fellow entrepreneurs. Looks like you are working on this card. This is part of the business intelligence series. You'll be doing some traditional market research. But here's some comments on that. This is something you're going to do in addition to your customer empathy that we talked about earlier. But what I want to caution about is don't go out and buy or pay for statistics or data. That can be tempting. There's a lot of organizations that sell data and they might say theirs is the best, or it's an easy way to get it, but don't go shelling out money for data. You can look for, Google around for reports and white papers. There's a ton of webinars and podcasts of companies that might be similar to yours or in the universe of what you're doing. Look for those. They're worth checking out, but be careful. They can be misleading. Oftentimes, they have their own agenda or their reason for doing the thing that they do. So just be careful. Don't just take their research as gospel or as written in stone or however you want to perceive it, but do your own research in addition to that, or just use it as an additional data point. So be cautious there. If you're downloading reports and white papers, what I've found is that actually, if they're a decent white paper or report, they'll cite their sources, usually in a footnote or in the back of the paper, and sometimes just going right to those sources, highlighting them, putting them into your run line in your browser, and going right to those sources is a better place to grab the data than actually having to read through the rest of the paper. You can just go right to their source. Another really important place to look for government data. So you've got Bureau of Labor Statistics, you've got National Institute for Health, you've got the CDC, you've got the Small Business Association. They all have research components to them. They all have publicly available data that you can get. So depending on your type of business, some of these might apply or not, but look around at these other sources of data. It's government data, so it's reasonably good data. Sometimes it's old. So, and by old, I mean it's a couple years old. They're not going to have, at this point, we're in 2021, they're not going to have 2021 data. Likely you'll see stuff from 2018 and 2019. They're about a year, 2 years behind. Now, if you're a student, you might have access to certain databases such as the Nielsen database and Nexus. So check with your teachers, check with your professors, check with your librarians, and even go to the public library. A lot of times they have subscriptions to some of these special databases that are paid for by the city or municipality that you live in. Go to those, great places for additional data. And the librarians, they're experts. They can help you search. Sometimes those databases are a little bit arcane and clumsy to work through, but they can help you with that. And then another place to look for data is your chambers of commerce. Sometimes they're aggregating data for their own purposes, and oftentimes they'll share it. Look in trade organizations. You might belong or need to belong or will be part of a trade organization at some point, and they're oftentimes gathering local, kind of regional and national data. They might be willing to share it with you just to give you some direction as part of your research. And then even your municipal offices, so your city, your kind of local government might have some data that they're able to share with you. So check them out as well. And then lastly, yeah, you can do your own surveys. You can look for customer panels and other group data. Just be aware that surveys and group data, there's a lot of bias and so forth built in that process. So unless you're controlling the process and are an expert in it, that data can be a little bit suspect. It's not that it's not usable or useful, it can be, but don't use that as your only source. So my biggest caution here with doing traditional market research is that sometimes we're tempted as entrepreneurs to kind of hide behind our screens. We don't want to get out there and talk to potential customers, interviewing, and always be looking for that extra engagement with someone, looking for behavior, looking and testing. That you have to do. You can't stop that in place of doing this traditional research. So always be going out there and probing the market, getting primary research on your own, testing your assumptions and testing your minimum viable products that you're creating. And this traditional research just becomes another data point that you can use to help align yourself directionally. Thank you much. Take care.